For me, Schubert's Ninth Symphony is an incredibly spiritual undertaking. Whenever I perform this piece, whenever I think about this piece, I am reminded of what a game changer this was. I mean, Schubert had written a lot of music up until then, but in one fell swoop, he entered new territory, and it's kind of tragic to imagine what might have come after that if he had lived a little longer. This was his last big symphonic work. He never had a chance even to go back to the Eighth Symphony, now the one that we call the unfinished. But people have this erroneous assumption that he himself had this kind of epic quality, and that's why it's called the Great C Major. In fact, the great, the appellation great, comes simply from the German Grosse to distinguish it, the big symphony in C major, from the little symphony in C major, which he wrote earlier, number 6. Schubert knew what he was doing, and it's not, in my mind, anything ponderous or heavy unless you play it that way. In fact, I think this is the spiritual journey that it is because it's the epitome of Viennese song transformed. I mean, this is transcendent music in the best sense of the word. Underneath this incredible propulsion, the momentum which informs the first movement, certainly the last movement, the third movement, and in a funny way, the darker second movement, this constant forward sense, there is also, in the elation, a constant tinge for me of bittersweet regret, maybe even sadness. There's a moment in the second movement which almost explodes with grief, but it's the kind of grief that clears the air. And so when you come back to that feeling of repose and quiet and absolute calm, it has even more impact. I think keeping that always at the forefront is the key to making this music live. So the idea of coupling the Ruggles directly into the Berg, I think, is a very interesting idea, because Berg, also writing in a 12-tone language, was actually very tonal in the way that he grouped the organization of his rows and the manipulation of his tonal areas. And there is a great deal of lyricism to the Berg, which clearly is Viennese music. And the idea that these two contrasting works can have this kind of shared language but sound so completely different, I actually think the Berg is closer to the Schubert in spirit than it is in the Ruggles, even though both the Berg and the Ruggles are 12-tone music. And of course, if you have somebody like Gil Shaham playing the Berg, who understands deeply this kind of Viennese lilt and the inherent lyricism of this music, you've got a pretty sure bet for a great performance. The idea of doing this with Gil in Helzberg Hall with the Schubert on the other side is so moving to me. I cannot wait to share this concert with all.